Welcome to another episode of Orient Brief. I'm your host, Ahmetcan Uzlaşık. Today, we are tackling a critical and timely question. Can Syrians actually return to their homeland? Without further ado, let's dive right in. Since the fall of Damascus and Bashar al-Assad's regime, Syrians have been celebrating worldwide. Rebel groups led by HTŞ, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, now hold the Syrian capital. This group, considered a terrorist organization by numerous countries and international organizations, was once linked to Al-Qaeda and compromises a network of various factions, including jihadists. While the toppling of Assad has been welcomed with cautious optimism, particularly in Western and Turkish media, the future of Syria remains deeply uncertain. One pressing question is whether HTŞ can foster tolerance within Syria, or if they will prioritize retribution and consolidation of power. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. What about Israel, which has launched strikes on Syria's military and civilian infrastructure, particularly in the south? Will radical Islamist organizations find an opportunity to research amid this chaos? Who will fund the reconstruction of Syria, a nation battered by war for over a decade? And what kind of political settlement could secure lasting peace? While these geopolitical questions loom large, another issue is gaining prominence. When and how will millions of displaced Syrians return to their homeland? The issue of Syrians in Turkey has been a contentious topic in Turkish politics for over a decade. After Assad regained most of the territories he lost in 2016, and with rising global anti-immigrant sentiment, the pressure for Syrians to return to their homeland intensified. However, despite the growing discussion, the actual number of returns remained small until last week. According to Turkish government sources, since the fall of Assad regime, 7,621 Syrians have returned to Syria in just 5 days. To provide some context, before the regime's fall, daily return figures were modest, around 200 to 300. After Assad's collapse, the number of returns went up. On December 9, for example, 1,259 Syrians returned, and since then, the daily number has stayed above 1,000. During Syria's 13-year civil war, Turkey hosted nearly 4 million Syrian refugees, becoming one of the largest hosts of displaced people globally. Recently, many news articles have been published on Syrians returning back as they express deep gratitude to Turkey for its support during their displacement, acknowledging its critical role in their survival. However, it is better to be cautious, as these returns only represent a slight increase. Well, Turkey is not the only country that discusses this topic. On December 12, European Home Affairs ministers convened in Brussels to discuss the future of Syrian refugees in the wake of Assad's fall. The meeting exposed stark divisions among EU member states. Germany, Austria, Belgium and Sweden have paused new asylum applications from Syrians. Germany's interior minister emphasized the invaluable contributions of Syrian refugees and supported voluntary, safe returns as conditions improve, similar to Ankara's position. In contrast, Austria called for immediate deportations of those who have failed to integrate, reflecting a more hardline stance. Moreover, Austria will support Syrians who wish to return to their home country with a return bonus of €1,000. Before moving on with this week's guest opinion, let's consider this. What does a return even mean? For some, it is going back to shattered homes in regions controlled by uncertain authorities. For others, it's facing the trauma of war in a homeland that may no longer feel like home. In these senses, it is not realistic that the voluntary returns will reach millions in the short term. Furthermore, the Syrian economy has shrunk by 85% between 2011 and 2023. The cost of reconstruction is also estimated to be at least around $300 billion. Leaving you with these thoughts, now let's hear journalist Erkin Öncan's takes on this question. He has been following Syria very closely for many years.
So, unlike these statements of the government and pro-government media, I don't think that a significant number of Syrians will return, except for a small group with political motivations. While a new administration may have been established in Syria, it is still far too early to claim that a stable political and economic system has been fully put into place. And the new administration's economic plans remain unclear. So there are questions like what kind of system will be established, what challenges will arise during the process of rebuilding the country's economy. All of this remains a mystery. In this context, there is little to reinforce the desire of Syrians in Turkey to return Syria, many of whom have established a certain level of stability and integration. Moreover, it's important to note that a significant portion of Syrians who came to Turkey harbor dreams of moving to Europe. Thus, it is likely that only the poorest Syrians or a small group of politically motivated individuals who support the new administration will want to return, I believe. On the contrary, I believe that due to the social and political turmoil likely to unfold in Syria in the coming period, migration toward Turkey will continue. And lastly, the government's rhetoric about Syrians returning to their home country is meaningful when considering the prominence of the Syrian issue in the Turkish public discourse. This is because the Syrian matter is not only a regional issue but also a central topic in inner politics.
Finally, lasting political stability in Syria still requires an inclusive political structure and a new constitution. Equally important is the lifting of international sanctions, yet these two seem closely linked. For instance, on December 16, the European Union stated that the removal of sanctions on Syria would be tied to human rights improvements. Similarly, the United States has made comparable statements. One thing is certain: political stability in Syria is hanging by a thread, and every step forward must be taken with great caution. Even if sanctions are lifted, the country's recovery will take time. Still, these measures could eventually lead to seeing the number of returning Syrians reach hundreds of thousands. Thank you for listening today, and take care until next week.